You live in a wealthy, modern nation full of opportunity, yet countless individuals cannot afford a roof over their head. This isn't just an isolated case, it's a stark sign of our times. Instability now touches everyone, the educated, the employed, even our former soldiers. Have you ever considered your own past dreams? Did you imagine a life vulnerable to such hardship? The collapse of a life isn't always loud. It often begins quietly: an unpaid medical bill, a lost job, a broken relationship. And then, one by one, everything disappears. Look closely at these streets. Do you see the silent war unfolding? This isn't just about poverty. It's about a crisis, a relentless grip that's tightening on our society, the fentanyl crisis. Why has homelessness in America exploded to this degree? What are the reasons they end up on this path? And as we look towards homelessness, 2025, is there any way for us as a community to prevent this? Why have places like Skid Row, Kensington, and the Tenderloin become synonymous with despair, with encampments and open-air drug markets? Why do these areas, often called the overdose capital, never truly recover? This is Bear City 24. Today we explore how fentanyl, often called the zombie drug, now owns our streets, trapping the homeless in an inescapable void. The unfolding crisis. No one is immune. In the vast tapestry of the United States, a nation celebrated for its prosperity, a silent crisis continues to expand. On a single night in early 2024, over 771,000 individuals found themselves without a stable roof over their heads. This figure represents the highest number ever recorded since the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, widely known as HUD, began meticulously tracking these statistics in 2007. It's a misconception to believe this struggle is confined to the bustling boulevards of Los Angeles or the iconic hills of San Francisco. The reach of homelessness extends far beyond. You'll find it in the quiet industrial towns of Ohio, amidst the sun-drenched tourist havens of Florida, and in the brutally cold, secluded corners of Anchorage, Alaska, where even a robust sleeping bag offers little defense against the unforgiving snow. This isn't just a big city issue anymore. It's a systemic challenge permeating every state, every community, regardless of geographic location, professional background, or individual history. It's tempting to categorize those experiencing homelessness, to place them into neat, understandable boxes. But a closer look reveals a far more intricate, multi-layered reality. Not everyone without a permanent address has simply given up. And crucially, not all are ensnared by the devastating grip of addiction or substance abuse, though that narrative is undeniably a critical part of the larger story. Many are in fact victims of a sudden, unforeseen crisis, navigating a societal system that regrettably lacks a truly effective safety net. Imagine this scenario: an unexpected medical bill, perhaps for a life-saving surgery not adequately covered by insurance. Or a heart-wrenching divorce, leading a mother to lose the only home her children have ever known. Perhaps a sudden layoff from a long-held job precisely when monthly rent payments have doubled. These are not isolated incidents. They are common catalysts. Consider this striking statistic from the Urban Institute: nearly 1/3 of working-age individuals experiencing homelessness had maintained stable employment within the 12 months preceding their loss of housing. This means they were active, contributing members of society, part of the economic machine, until they were abruptly ejected from it. The term working homeless is gaining increasing prominence. These are individuals who hold jobs often full-time, yet are forced to live in their vehicles beneath bridges or in makeshift tent encampments. They rise before dawn, prepare for their shifts, meticulously maintain their hygiene in public facilities, and strive to remain inconspicuous in shared spaces. A study by the University of Washington in Seattle revealed that as many as 27% of the city's homeless population are still actively engaged in part-time or full-time employment. They are not without purpose. Rather, they are perhaps the most honest reflection of a generation caught between two unyielding forces: the relentless astronomical rise in the cost of living and a social welfare support system that simply cannot keep pace with the harsh realities of modern life. Homelessness is not an inherent identity. It is a state of being, often temporary, invariably involuntary, and frequently beyond the control of the person enduring it. And in this current era, it is a state that, after just a few unfortunate missteps, can unexpectedly befall anyone. Fentanyl's dominion, the silent deadly grip. As you traverse the extensive boulevards of America's major urban centers, it's impossible to ignore the figures, huddled in worn blankets, lying silently on the unforgiving sidewalks. Yet beneath that profound silence, a screaming reality reverberates. No one is born into this existence. No child ever dreams of sleeping beneath a concrete overpass or sharing a flimsy sleeping bag with a stranger beside a gas station. When life unexpectedly veers off course, be it due to the sudden loss of a job, a debilitating illness, or simply having no one left to turn to for help, countless individuals find themselves in a precarious state of living in between. They are no longer fully integrated into society, yet they are not entirely gone either. In this liminal space, all boundaries blur the line between searing pain and numbing apathy, between restless wakefulness and a desperate need for oblivion, between harsh reality and utter surrender. And there, a dangerous substance, its name whispered in hushed tones, its power undeniable, has become a cruel emblem of powerlessness and profound despair. Fentanyl. It is inexpensive, easily concealed, rapidly disseminated, and possesses a potency that dwarfs any painkiller ever conceived by humanity. It doesn't gently knock on the door. It shatters it, crashing into places once called home places, that once echoed with laughter, places that once held vibrant hope. The truly terrifying aspect is not solely its insatiable addictive potential, but the profound reasons why individuals turn to it in the first place. Not everyone begins their descent with a dramatic fall from grace. Many were once skilled mechanics, ambitious students, dedicated firefighters. But then illness struck, hospital debts piled up, jobs, vanished homes were lost, and ultimately the invaluable feeling of being understood and supported simply evaporated. A person experiencing homelessness in Portland shared a poignant reflection in a report by The Guardian. In 2023, I used to try my best to stay sober, but you just don't understand. The biting cold of a January morning in Oregon, it cuts right through an old thin coat. I couldn't sleep. I was consumed by panic. In that moment, just one small dose was enough to help me forget everything, even if just for a few precious hours, while public health experts issued dire warnings about the unprecedented spread of this devastating substance throughout urban areas. Those living on the streets often describe it as a temporary escape from a hell they never chose to inhabit. It doesn't merely extinguish life, it slowly, agonizingly diminishes the very ability to be perceived as a human being for those caught within its relentless spiral. We continue to frame this issue as a healthcare crisis, a pervasive social dilemma. But at the very core of this profound suffering, many are simply struggling to survive each terrifying night. And sometimes in their desperate fight, they choose to forget, because tragically there is nothing left for them to remember. San Francisco, a tale of two realities. San Francisco, a city once globally celebrated as the city of the future, remains an undisputed epicenter for the most brilliant technological minds. It's a place where a modest two-bedroom apartment can command a price tag in the multi-millions, and it proudly boasts one of the highest per capita incomes in the entire US, home to tech giants like Salesforce X, formerly Twitter, Uber, and just a few blocks away, the sprawling campus of Google. This city symbolizes unprecedented innovation and wealth. And yet, in stark, undeniable contrast, directly beneath the shimmering lights of these towering skyscrapers, more than 10,000 individuals find themselves without a permanent home. Take a mere turn from the bustling downtown core and you can step into the Tenderloin, a neighborhood tragically known as the city's fragile line between life and death. Here, sidewalks serve as makeshift beds. Darkened alleys become desperate injection sites, and the haunting wail of ambulance sirens is as constant and frequent as the chiming of church bells. In 2023, over 600 lives were tragically lost to fentanyl in San Francisco alone, with the vast majority of these deaths occurring within the Tenderloin district. This figure, by any measure, should serve as a profound wake-up call for any nation let alone one of the wealthiest cities in all of America. The pressing question that looms large is, how can a city possessing such immense financial and technological resources allow its own citizens to perish on the streets, living in abject destitution, just steps away from the headquarters of the world's leading corporations and hospitals? The answer, as with many deeply entrenched societal issues, is anything but simple. A significant part of this equation lies in the reality that inequality in San Francisco transcends mere economic disparity. It fundamentally encompasses the very right to exist and thrive within its urban spaces. When housing costs relentlessly skyrocket when city policies struggle to keep pace with the accelerating rate of social change, it is invariably the most vulnerable among us who are left behind, cast aside by the current. It is here in a place that should ideally stand as a beacon of human progress and enlightened innovation that we witness the unsettling coexistence of two entirely disparate worlds. Worlds that often seem to touch yet rarely truly meet. On one side, we see individuals commuting in self-driving vehicles, inhabiting smart apartments equipped with every conceivable convenience. On the other, a young mother desperately clutches her child on a cold sidewalk, her only backdrop a sign advertising free Wi-Fi, a stark reminder of the digital divide that separates her from the city's promise. However, it would be an oversight to deny that San Francisco is also actively exploring, and in some cases implementing, many bold and compassionate solutions. From navigation centers, specialized shelters offering personalized case management and crucial psychological support, to the gradually expanding Housing First policy efforts are being made. Yet the pace of their implementation regrettably remains too slow, falling far behind the accelerating rate of collapse for the thousands of individuals struggling on its streets. If a city as abundantly wealthy and resource-rich as San Francisco finds itself unable to adequately protect its most vulnerable residents, then the core of the problem is no longer a simple lack of financial resources. It points instead to a deeper systemic issue, a lack of collective will, and perhaps a profound erosion of fundamental human connection. The invisible barriers to compassion. It would be inaccurate to suggest that many U.S. cities are merely standing by, idly watching the escalating homelessness and drug crises unfold. In reality, modern intervention models such as Housing First navigation centers and harm reduction strategies have all demonstrated varying degrees of effectiveness. So the critical question remains, why, despite these earnest efforts, does homelessness continue its relentless upward trajectory? Housing First, a prominent and impactful model, operates on a deceptively simple yet powerful principle. Provide an individual experiencing homelessness with a stable place to live first, and only then proceed with crucial psychological treatment, addiction support, or assistance in securing employment. In locations where this model has been rigorously and properly implemented, such as Houston, Texas, the rate of homelessness has seen a significant and measurable decrease over the past decade. However, on a national scale, Housing First is still largely perceived as a pilot program rather than being embraced as a comprehensive national policy. Persistent challenges include insufficient and inconsistent budgets, a critical shortage of available land for new construction complex and often restrictive legal regulations, and significantly community backlash from the "not in my backyard" phenomenon. These obstacles have collectively hindered this highly effective model from scaling to the necessary level required to address the crisis comprehensively. In bustling urban centers like San Francisco and Seattle, navigation centers were strategically designed to serve as professionally managed temporary shelters. They offer a range of personalized support services, fundamental medical care, and vital psychological counseling. Yet almost invariably, these centers are perpetually overloaded, with their waiting lists growing ever longer. Individual recovery, by its very nature, demands considerable time-dedicated manpower and continuous empathetic engagement, resources that the current overburdened system simply cannot adequately provide. Another crucial solution, harm reduction, while sometimes controversial, undeniably saves thousands of lives each and every year. The strategic distribution of naloxone, the life-saving opioid overdose reversal medication, or clean needles at accessible community points, has proven instrumental in significantly reducing mortality rates and curbing the spread of infectious diseases such as HIV or hepatitis C. However, despite its proven efficacy, some politicians and a segment of the public continue to view it as enabling drug use, an opinion that regrettably leads many critical programs to be defunded or met with fierce, organized opposition. Yet perhaps the most insidious and pervasive barrier remains deeply rooted in societal stigma. Many individuals claim to support efforts to help the homeless, on one condition: as long as it does not happen anywhere near my home. This widespread "not in my backyard" phenomenon, or NIMBY, actively stifles countless social housing projects and vital rehabilitation centers. It causes even the most meticulously planned and viable initiatives to be frustratingly delayed, or in many unfortunate cases, completely canceled. When those most desperately in need of help are systematically pushed out of sight, they are, by extension, also pushed out of the collective consciousness and concern of society. And so, even when evidence-based solutions are readily available, without a unified sense of community and shared empathy, attempting to build lasting change is akin to constructing a house upon shifting sand. Beyond appearances. The true cost of displacement. As the homelessness crisis becomes an increasingly visible fixture on every urban street corner, U.S. urban policy has, in some notable instances, begun to pivot. This shift, however, is not always towards deeper, more compassionate support, but rather towards increased control and often outright displacement. One of the prominent recent proposals stems from former President Donald Trump, who advocates for a treatment-first approach. This strategy involves the removal of individuals experiencing homelessness from urban areas, a ban on public camping, and their concentration into tent cities or encampments constructed on inexpensive land far removed from city centers. In his Agenda 47 statement, he explicitly affirmed his intention to collaborate with states to ban urban camping, specifically the practice of setting up tents on sidewalks and in public parks. Violators under this proposal would be directed to rehabilitation facilities or arrested if necessary. These large-scale tent camps, as envisioned, would be equipped with essential services including doctors, psychologists, and support staff. On the surface, this might sound like a pragmatic, perhaps even humane strategy, but the crucial overarching question remains: is this truly a systemic solution or merely a sophisticated displacement of the problem, sweeping it out of public view? Indeed, many cities across the nation, including Portland, Los Angeles, and Austin, are already implementing large-scale campaigns aimed at reclaiming public space. These initiatives often involve the swift clearing of homeless camps, the dismantling of tents, the seizure of personal property, and the urgent encouragement for individuals to enter temporary shelters. However, the pervasive lack of sustainable alternative housing options, coupled with often stringent residency conditions within these shelters, means that many individuals tragically find themselves returning to the streets after just a few short days, caught in a relentless cycle of upheaval. The fundamental issue we must understand is not the presence of the tents themselves. The problem lies in the underlying reasons why people are forced to live in those tents. You can enact bans on camping. You can meticulously clean the sidewalks. But these actions alone do not make poverty magically disappear. You can physically move the tents out of the city limits. But if you fail to address the foundational issues of affordable housing, accessible mental health care, and a robust social safety net, you are simply pushing a profound human tragedy out of sight without resolving its root causes. As some passionate activists rightly articulate, clearing camps without a viable solution is merely akin to sweeping dust under a rug. It might temporarily make the streets appear cleaner for a few weeks, offering a superficial sense of order, but the core problem continues to smolder beneath the surface, and it will inevitably return, often with greater intensity and complexity. A policy that prioritizes mere appearances over genuine, lasting change is not a policy at all. It is a superficial gesture. And the pervasive presence of homeless encampments across our cities is not a failure of individual character. It is the clearest, most undeniable sign of a deeply unstable and inequitable social structure. Beyond individual fault, towards systemic solutions. For far too long, we have been asking the wrong, misdirected questions. The core inquiry should not be, why is this person homeless? Instead, it must be, why can a society as wealthy and advanced as ours allow hundreds of thousands of its citizens to lose their homes simultaneously, and then shockingly assume it's entirely their fault? The answer, much like any other intricate and interconnected system, does not solely reside in individual choices or perceived failures. It is deeply embedded within a societal structure that for many has created ground too slippery and treacherous to stand firm upon after even a minor stumble. To truly solve homelessness, we cannot confine our discussions to just tense the devastating fentanyl crisis or temporary emergency policies. A genuine lasting solution demands a long-term vision, a more humane approach, and a fundamental rethinking of our entire system. First and foremost, the solution lies in housing. Not merely temporary shelters or stopgap measures, but a sustainable, abundant supply of truly affordable apartments. As long as housing prices continue to escalate far beyond average incomes, and as long as residential communities continue to actively block the construction of much-needed community housing through the "not in my backyard" NIMBY phenomenon, this crisis will tragically persist unchecked. Concurrently, we must make a serious, substantial investment in accessible mental health care and comprehensive addiction treatment. While it is crucial to remember that not every person experiencing homelessness battles addiction, for those who are struggling with profound trauma or psychological disorders, a timely prescription or a series of therapy sessions can represent a life-changing turning point, offering a path towards stability and healing. In parallel, there is an urgent need for robust skills training and vocational programs. This means actively creating opportunities for meaningful employment, providing practical vocational training, and fostering genuine community integration. Individuals who have endured life on the streets do not need empty sympathy or pity. What they desperately need are the tangible conditions and unwavering support to stand firmly on their own 2 feet in a way that empowers them to sustain themselves without being perpetually hindered by their past circumstances or by deeply ingrained societal prejudice. And finally, perhaps the most critical component of all, we must fundamentally cease the criminalization of poverty itself. Banning camping, initiating arrests, and levying fines against individuals simply for being poor only perpetuates another cruel cycle of injustice. No one escapes the crushing weight of poverty by being incarcerated, only to be released back into society with yet another stain on their record-making re-entry even more insurmountable. To genuinely end this crisis, let us begin with a fundamental transformative change in perspective. See the homeless as human beings, not as abstract problems to be managed or removed. When our policies and societal structures are built upon this foundational understanding, we don't just solve homelessness. We begin the profound process of rebuilding faith in a society where everyone, regardless of their past, has a rightful place to begin anew. What you've been hearing throughout this documentary are not merely cold, dispassionate statistics. They represent hundreds of thousands of deeply personal stories. Tales of individuals who once had families, who once held jobs, who once harbored vibrant dreams, and who are now every single night struggling with unimaginable resilience simply to survive. This crisis lays bare an uncomfortable, almost unimaginable truth that right in the very heart of one of the wealthiest nations on earth, there exist profound dark corners that the bright light of prosperity has tragically never managed to reach. Behind every single tent, every tattered blanket lying on a sidewalk, there is a person. A unique individual with a name, with memories, with very real pain, and with an undeniable yearning to be seen and heard. Homelessness is not just a series of unfortunate personal accidents. It is a stark, unforgiving mirror, unflinchingly reflecting the pervasive inequality and the deep-seated brokenness within the larger system we all collectively inhabit. In a society can only truly claim to be successful when no one is forced to die in the brutal cold for lack of essential medicine, for want of basic shelter, or simply for the absence of an outstretched, compassionate hand. If you believe these vital stories deserve to be heard, if you feel the weight of this truth, please consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the Bear City 24 channel. Together, we can work to spread this truth, to foster understanding, and to awaken a much-needed wave of compassion.